Hey, it's me again. All right, so chapter number 9. Look at us rolling along. Just a little bit more to cover here in the civil rights movement. So last chapter, we saw the March on Washington. We saw Dr. King give his iconic "I Have a Dream" speech. And as was mentioned in the lesson, in the content I typed up for you guys, the March on Washington had a huge impact on convincing the president, who would become Lyndon Baines Johnson after the assassination of President Kennedy in November of 1963. The March on Washington would open the eyes of the American federal government to the importance of civil rights. Now, let's talk chapter number 9, and let's talk about the state of Mississippi. Mississippi, deep in the American South, right? It is a Gulf Coast state. Mississippi was also one of those states that back after or during the Civil War, declared themselves part of the Confederate States of America, right? They were one of the original members of the Confederacy. As a matter of fact, if you look at the Mississippi state flag right now, you will see the sort of stars and bars, what a lot of people consider to be the Confederate flag in the upper top left corner of that flag, which is kind of crazy, right? So anyways, 1964, Mississippi. Mississippi was a state which was well known for its deep-seated segregationist racism. And in 1964, a number of people who are part of a group called CORE, or the Congress of Racial Equality, you should have seen them in the video so far, organized something known as Freedom Summer. In particular, it was a man by the name of Bob Moses who organized this thing called Freedom Summer. So what was Freedom Summer? So in Mississippi, fewer than 7% of eligible black voters were actually registered to vote. And not voting translates to no obvious political power. No political power means the government can ignore you. It means that the issues of your people don't become the issues that the government pursues, right? You want to make sure that people are voting. To just not be a part of the political system means that African American people were forgotten about. So in 1964, this campaign called Freedom Summer came to be. And what happened was hundreds of black Mississippi citizens, along with thousands of northern white students and black students as well, came from states like Michigan, Illinois, etc., to try to come down to Mississippi to basically get thousands and thousands of black Mississippi citizens registered to vote, because again, you need to vote to have that political power, right? If you're not voting, the agenda of or the issues of black people, right, in Mississippi are going to be ignored. So in 1964, there's this mass campaign of attempting to get black Mississippi citizens on the voter registrar. And Freedom Summer was moderately successful. You could actually make a pretty strong argument that it was not really that successful at all. In the end, there was a massive human toll for the actions of the Freedom Summer campaign. I'm just going to read you some of the stats here. So there was 35 shootings, 6 murders, 30 bombings, and 80 physical attacks. And this was all in one summer. So as you can see, the segregationists, the Klan, was busy at this time. Now, in particular, during Freedom Summer, 3 young men got murdered, and you can see their missing persons photos up above this video if you haven't checked it out yet. So 3 young men disappeared, and that disappearance sparked an investigation called Mississippi Burning, which, by the way, was also it became a movie. The term Mississippi Burning became a movie in 1988 with Gene Hackman and William Dafoe. And it's a fantastic movie. So anyways, guys, the FBI got involved in this disappearance, and eventually they found these three young men. Each of the white men were shot once, and then the young black man was shot 3 times, I believe, right? And with the bodies being found, that was only sort of like one half of solving the crime. With the bodies being found, now they had to try to find out who actually committed the murders. And again, you know, the old saying that you young folks have, you know, snitches get stitches. Well, in the case of Mississippi in 1964, snitches didn't just get stitches. Snitches got stitches and then dumped into ditches or swamps, right? Where there were crocodiles. And so the FBI investigation demonstrated that a number of prominent people in Neshoba County, Mississippi were actually in on the murders that took place. So for instance, the sheriff was complicit in the conspiracy to commit the murder. The justice of the peace of Neshoba County was in on it. There is a Baptist minister, a white Baptist minister, who was in on it. In total, there was 10 individuals who were charged with conspiracy to commit murder. And in the end, and this is perhaps the saddest thing out of all of it, the state of Mississippi did or would not charge any of the individuals with conspiracy or with the murder of these 3 young men. So eventually the case goes all the way to a federal court, where instead of it being in a state court, right, the Mississippi government wasn't willing to prosecute. So it went to a federal court, and while in federal court, all the individuals who were arraigned on charges would end up getting sentences of less than 6 years for the taking of 3 lives, which is pretty crazy. So guys, unfortunately, not a lot of positivity when talking about Mississippi. And yeah, anyways, that is that for chapter number 9. We will continue on with chapter number 10. Finally, we'll actually get a little bit of good news with the creation and the passing of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. And we'll talk about the implications of it, and then we'll look at one more example of dissent turning violent on the part of authorities in Selma, Alabama. If you haven't seen the movie Selma, another very good civil rights movie you should check out. So peace, love you guys. We'll catch you in the next chapter.